Put a 380 ACP cartridge next to a 9mm, same bullet diameter, 355 inches. Identical. The brass is the same width. The projectile sitting at the tip is the same size, same weight class, same design from the same manufacturers. The only difference is the case is shorter. 3/4 of an inch for the 380 versus 3/4 of an inch plus a bit for the 9mm. Less powder behind the same bullet. Less velocity. Less energy. That's the entire engineering distinction between these two cartridges. One is a full sentence. The other is the same sentence with the last few words cut off. John Browning designed both of them. The 380 in 1908 for the Colt Model 1908 pocket hammerless. The 9mm Luger existed since 1901, but Browning's 380 was built to run in a simpler blowback action that didn't need a locked breech, cheaper to manufacture, smaller pistol, weaker round. That was the trade-off in 1908, and it's still the trade-off in 2026. So why does the gun industry sell these as two separate categories? Why is there a 380 section and a 9mm section at every ammunition counter? Why do gun shops recommend the 380 as a legitimate alternative instead of what it actually is? Because the 380 sells guns, small guns, pocket guns, purse guns. Guns for people who are told they can't handle a 9mm. And every one of those sales comes with a box of ammunition that's 30 to 40% weaker than the 9mm round sitting on the next shelf. That is the LIE. Not that the 380 cannot kill. It can. It has. Nathuram Godse assassinated Mahatma Gandhi with 3 rounds of 380 ACP to the chest at contact distance in 1948. The cartridge has been ending lives for over a century. Nobody's arguing it is harmless. The LIE is that it is adequate. And adequate, when your life depends on it, is a word that should terrify you. The GEL data is next, and it is not kind to anyone carrying a 380. Lucky Gunner tested over 100 defensive handgun loads in calibrated ballistic gel using the FBI 4-layer denim protocol. Their 380 ACP results tell a story the ammunition industry would rather you didn't read in one sitting. Federal HST Micro 99 grain, the best 380 defensive load on the market. Penetration through denim, just over 13 inches, expansion to just over half an inch. That load, specifically that one, passes the FBI 12-inch minimum. Barely. Hornady Critical Defense 90 grain FTX. The polymer tip prevents the hollow point from clogging with denim. Penetration averaged around 11 inches. Expansion was consistent, but 11 inches is below the FBI floor. A medical professional on the Ruger forum who'd examined gunshot wounds surgically confirmed that the Hornady FTX was the only 380 hollow point he'd ever seen expand properly in actual tissue. Every other 3/8 hollow point he'd recovered from patients had failed to open. And that's the fundamental physics problem with the 380 ACP. The cartridge operates between 190 and 250 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. The 9mm operates between 330 and 400, roughly 40% more energy in the 9. A hollow point bullet needs a minimum velocity to reliably expand. When it expands, it slows down faster which means less penetration. When it doesn't expand, it penetrates deeper but creates a narrower wound channel. The 380 doesn't have enough energy to do both, expand and penetrate. It can do one or the other. The 9mm has enough energy to do both simultaneously. That's not an opinion. That's the GEL data across 100+ loads from the largest independent ammunition testing project ever published. A 9mm Federal HST 124 grain penetrates just under 15 inches and expands to 0.6 of an inch through denim. Deep enough and wide enough. A 300mm, say, 80 Federal HST 99 grain penetrates just over 13 inches and expands to just over half an inch. Barely deep enough and noticeably less wide. And that's the best 380 load available. The average 380 defensive load in Lucky Gunner's database either hit 12 inches with minimal expansion or expanded well and stopped at 9 inches. Now, the part that should have killed the 380. ACP 10 years ago, but didn't. The Sig P365 came out in 2018. 17 rounds of 9mm in a pistol barely larger than a Ruger LCP. The Springfield Hellcat followed, then the Glock 43X, then the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. The micro-compact 9mm revolution erased the one advantage the 380 had held for a century. Size. The entire reason the 380 existed was that 9mm pistols were too large for pocket carry. The Glock 19, the gold standard 9mm for decades, is a compact gun, but it's not going in your front pocket. The 380 lived in that gap. Tiny pistols, pocket holsters, ankle rigs, deep concealment where nothing bigger would fit. The P365 closed that gap. A 9mm pistol with a 10-round flush magazine in a package that weighs under 18 ounces. The Ruger LCP Max in 380 weighs about 12.5 ounces with a 12-round magazine. 5 ounces of difference. That's the weight of a cell phone case. You're trading 40% of your terminal ballistics for the weight of a cell phone case. And the P365 gives you 9mm ballistics. Federal HST, Spear Gold Dot, Hornady Critical Duty. Every top-tier defensive load that actually works, the loads that expand and penetrate simultaneously, the loads that the 380 can't reliably duplicate because the physics won't allow it. All of them, in a gun that fits in the same holster. So who should actually carry a 380? Because there is an answer, and it has nothing to do with ballistics. People who physically cannot rack a 9mm slide. Arthritis, reduced grip strength, age-related hand weakness, nerve damage. There are people, a lot of them, who cannot generate the force required to cycle a 9mm slide against a recoil spring rated for 9mm pressures. The 380 operates at lower pressure. The slides are easier to rack. The recoil springs are lighter. For someone whose hands won't cooperate with a 9mm, the 380 isn't a compromise. It's the only option that functions. And for that person, a 380 loaded with Federal HST 99 grain is infinitely better than a 9mm sitting in a safe because they can't operate it. A gun you can use beats a gun you can't, regardless of what the gel data says. But if your hands work fine, if you can rack a P365 or a Hellcat or a Shield Plus, and you're carrying a 380 because someone at a gun counter told you it was enough, or because you like how small the LCP feels, you are carrying a cartridge that gives you zero margin for error on the worst night of your life. A 9mm gives you margin, deeper penetration, wider expansion, more energy transferred, more loads that actually work through clothing. And the size difference between the two platforms has shrunk to the weight of a phone case. The 300mm 80 ACP is not a category. It's a shortened 9mm case with less powder behind the same bullet. The industry gave it its own shelf because selling a 300mm 80 pistol sounds better than selling a reduced power 9mm. But that's what it is. And once you see it that way, the decision gets Very simple. Carry what your hands can operate. If that's a 9mm, carry the 9. If that's a 380, carry the 380 and load it with the best ammunition available. But don't carry a 380 because it's enough. Carry it because it's all your body will allow. Those are two very different reasons, and only one of them is honest. Tell me what caliber matchup you want to see next. I'll pick the most requested one and make it. Subscribe.